the group of community.
Okay.
So today is my second day to come to see the, activity goes on here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so.
And do you work in a local business or?
No, but I just help them when they are, in the community. As a community.
And he's going to be working with us.
What we were saying to Ibrahim, Nur and Farah is that, because at the moment you're just doing tea and coffee, it's fairly straightforward for food hygiene.
Yeah.
But you might have people that come here to use the community centre that are going to either run a food business or work in a food business.
Yeah.
Also, I think here particularly, and maybe at Ibrahim Centre as well, at some point in the future you might start to do food as well as tea and coffee. But don't worry about remembering everything, because if actually, could you get Omar to do his details?
Yeah.
I will send you a copy of the slides and all of the information links.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And this email is just to say that you're happy for us to send you emails. Things like that.
Ibrahim, are you finding this interesting, useful?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Useful.
Okay, good. I just wanted to check because I know it's very different to what you need for doing the teas and coffees. But hopefully you'll be useful in the future.
Name here, then you can just
Thank you.
Also, in the future, when we can, that's about
Yeah.
But at the moment, we're pretty it's
Okay, good.
we've got the basic.
Yeah, and in the future, when you do decide your plan, you can always contact us to get more detailed advice.
Yeah.
We're happy to come and look at the kitchen or.
Yeah, we will.
thank you.
Oh, that's good. So for this file.
It's our only copy at the moment.
Okay.
But I can get you one. Yeah.
Useful.
If we can hang on to that one, because if we do another one of these for somebody else and we don't have a copy to show them,
It's fully documented.
but I will.
It's online.
It is online. It's online and you can print it out a section at a time. So if there are any of them that don't apply for your business, you don't have to print the whole thing, you can just print the bits out.
So some legislation is applicable.
Yeah.
Okay, our sanitary name,
Yeah.
and we were going to absolutely.
Yeah, we used to be able to order them in a really nice folder with nice bits that went with them, but obviously because it all came from central government, it's all got a bit too tight to pay for anything nowadays.
It's good.
Sinead's just going to cover a bit on food standards because although we tend to separate it out into food safety and food standards, there are some bits of food standards that are really important for food safety. So we thought we would add this bit in as well.
Yeah, so food standards, we're looking at things like, are the foods labelled correctly? If it's packaged foods, it must be in English. So if you get deliveries from your suppliers, they can sometimes put a slip label on, so a white label, but the main thing is there's English labelling as well as another language available. And also telling people if you have cakes on sale, what cakes is it? Identify the allergens within the cakes. And that can also be done. There's two ways you could do it. You can do it verbally, and if you're doing it verbally, I recommend that you complete an allergen matrix, and with an allergen matrix you write down each different food that you sell, and you go through all of the ingredients that go into the food or the dish, and you tick. So if it has nuts in, you tick and you write which nut. Is it hazelnut inside it? Gluten, you tick and you say what gluten is it? Is it oat? Is it wheat? So you will do that for each dish that you sell. Thank you. Thanks.
I can include the matrix template in the email that I sent around.
Yeah. You also need to tell your customers how to get the information. So if you're not giving it, you need to tell them how to receive it. So this sign on the board here, you can display one of those in a position that your customers will easily see, so they know how to get the information. What some people do is they have a food label in front of the cake, write which cake it is or what food it is, and write the allergens on the label itself for every different one. But alternatively, you can use a matrix and give it verbally, providing people know how to get the information.
Good.
Okay.
And as a customer, if I don't know if anybody, you or anybody in your families has an allergy rather, as a customer that's really important to be confident that when you ask somebody, are there nuts in it? And they say no, that there really aren't nuts in it, because allergies can be quite serious.
And also, if your foods are prepared in the kitchen where you can't guarantee that nuts aren't handled in the kitchen, you should let the customers know that these foods, it's not guaranteed that they can't be cross-contaminated. And also during the cooking process, just think about different ways of contaminating the meat. So you want to perhaps prepare the nut-free food first and then the nuts food after. So it's like time separation, something first and then the other after.
But there is free online training for this, and it's very good. And when I send the email around, I'll put the link to that training in the email.
Please.
Yeah, there's quite a bit around allergies because there's some. We won't bore you with the details, but there are some new laws that have come in recently that have changed the number of businesses that need to provide allergens. So it's now not just manufacturers or people in a restaurant. There are other types. If you're selling in a bakery and you package the bread before you sell it to someone, you have to have the information there as well. So it's worth having a look at the online training for that.
So, right, health and safety is around the principle of protecting staff and customers from any risks. So any way they can get hurt within your premises. Let's think of slips and trips as a very common one. An example of that could be if you're frying with oil and some oil drips on the floor, that needs to be cleaned up immediately to prevent member of staff falling over. You'll have things like a yellow, or you may have yellow signs to put over it until you get round to cleaning it, but it needs to be prioritised, otherwise somebody will seriously injure themselves. COSH is all about the substances that may be handled. You want some substances are harmful.
Okay.
And in order to handle them, you need to have sort of control measures in place, otherwise it will damage their skin, cause burns and things like that. On the back of the containers, on the back of the labels, quite often the warnings are there as well.
It's things like cleaning chemicals, isn't it?
Yeah, cleaning chemicals, bleaches,
disinfectants that you might, or detergents that you might use for the floor. What to do if you get it in your eyes, or how to store it, and making sure that you don't use it near food, that type of thing.
And the way to manage it is to carry out a risk assessment to identify the things that can cause harm. Yeah, and if you have 5 or more people within your business, 5 or more members of staff, the risk assessment must be written. But if less than 5, it doesn't need to be written, but you still do need to carry out a risk assessment just to identify the risks. Your business should have a gas safety certificate and an electrical safety certificate, just so that you know it's safe.
How about like here? There's no gas.
Don't need it.
I mean, we're just electric,
Yeah, and I would imagine that where you rent this through the London Fashion Centre,
Yeah.
they do your electrical safety for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So just make sure that you have that information from them, so you know it's safe.
We have,
And I would imagine, Ibrahim, yours is the same. Your centre, you're renting it from the freeholder, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
So sometimes I come across businesses and they haven't secured the socket on the wall and they've got live wires out and things like that. That would all fall into electrical safety and it's a hazard. Cooking on solid fuels.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, you know the
I'm just
ones.
thinking. And I don't think this is ever going to apply to your community centres, but you might have people that come into usual centres that run a business that use it. So for example, people are using charcoal in their business to cook, like a charcoal grill or a barbecue style cooking. The danger with that inside is that charcoal gives off carbon monoxide, which if it's allowed to build up will stop us breathing properly and can either make people feel very ill or can actually result in death. So it's really important. We're not saying you can't use it, it's just it's important that if they are going to use charcoal, that they understand it gives off carbon monoxide, that they have, you know, we talked about ventilation and extracting the fumes, that they have something that is always switched on when they're using the charcoal, and that they don't turn it off until the charcoal is fully cold. Because what's quite common is people turn it off when they finish cooking and the charcoal carries on burning and carries on building up carbon monoxide. And we have carbon monoxide alarms that go off in flats above and the levels are dangerously high. People have had to be evacuated. So it's just really important for staff safety and for resident safety that if people are going to start a business that does use solid fuel, that they just fully understand how they have to ventilate it. Yeah.
And just to add to something we spoke about earlier, if you're not happy with the score that you have received at your food hygiene inspection, you are able to apply for something called a re-rating inspection. And as long as you prove to us and submit evidence, so photographs and things like that, of all of the changes you've made, the manager then reviews it and decides whether to issue a re-rating inspection. But that's not done until sort of 3 to 6 months after the initial inspection. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if a business gets a 0 or 1, for example, and they do all of the work that we've asked them to do, they can get a re-rating visit sooner than they would get a normal visit, and their rating might go up to a 3 or 4. People just need to be aware though that some businesses have done that and then they've done something worse and their rating's gone down, not up. So people need to be aware when they apply that they need to maintain the good work that they do, not do it for a while to make us happy and then go back to bad habits. And that happens with all sorts of businesses. And sometimes with quite big businesses that you're then very disappointed that people haven't kept it up. That's all of our formal stuff, but I don't know if you guys have questions or examples or things you want to talk about that we haven't covered.